Assalamualaikum and very good day to Syahril Shafie and everyone. We are students from International Trade and Finance and we are going to present our topic about understanding UCP600 and INCOTERMS. My name is HAFIZUDDIN HAKIM 272120 and I will be a first presenter for my group. So, what is the UCP600? UCP600 is the Uniform Custom and Practice for Documentary Credit. Is a set of rules agreed by the International Chamber of Commerce which apply to financial institutions which issue letter of credit, which is a financial instrument that helping company finance trade. Many banks and lenders are subject to this regulation which aim to standardize international trade, reduce the risk of trading goods and services and also govern the trade. The UCP600 is the International Chamber of Commerce official publication (ICC). It is a collection of 39 articles on the subject of issuing and using letter of credit. It is applicable to 175 nations and account of approximately $1 trillion in annual trade. So the purpose of UCP600 is replace the UCP500 on the 1st July 2007. It was brought about to standardize a set of rules which is aiming to benefit all parties during a trade finance transaction. UCP600 was created by industry experts and mandated by the Banking Commission rather than through legislation. The first UCP was created in 1933 and has been revised by the ICC up to the point of the UCP600. So, does UCP600 will be revised? Many individuals inquire at the Trade Finance Global whether the UCP600 will be changed. The UCP600 is a set of rules produced by the International Chamber of Commerce that govern the issuing and management of letter of credit, which account of a sizable amount of worldwide trade finance transaction. So UCP700 will be announced later once the committee has completed and finalized all the rules and regulations to be involved. So moving on to the next part, the main issue that considered in making UCP600 are and addressing development in the banking, transportation and insurance industry. Next is to provide easier language and style to remove wording or things that could lead to misinterpretation. And the third one, reviewing ICC opinion and doctor decision. And the last one, considering the incorporation of or relationship with the ISBP 64, URR 525, ISP 98 and EUCP. Next, we will narrow down the content based on the category of article in UCP600 in order to explain the detail about the UCP600. The article 1 to 5 is about general provision, definition and application. Article 6 to 13, liability and responsibility. Article 14, examination of document. Article 15 to 17, examination of document. Article 18 to 28, document. Article 29 to 33, miscellaneous provision. Article 34 to 37, disclaimer. Article 38 to 39, transferable credit and assignment. So for the first category, which is Article 1, Article 1 is all about a LC has to be specifically mentioned that it is under UCP. You can specifically exclude a particular article of UCP, which is, for example, Article 31 excluded or any similar wording. So moving on to the Article 2, which is definition. This section gives every single definition that are related to or in UCP 600. Moving on to the Article 3 is interpretation, which is a credit is irrevocable even if it does not specifically mention it. Irrevocable mean when issued you cannot cancel or cancel without consulting all the party involved in trade. And signature can be in any form. Signature in LC can be in any type, which is stamped or not necessary to be in form of handwritten. This section also explain about the certification, which is certification can be in any form. It can be in stamp, well printed or endorsed. And this section also mentioned that branches of the same bank in different countries are treated as different bank because it will based on risk of country that the bank presented. So moving on to the Article 4 and 5, it is all about a credit is separated from contract, which is a credit is based on the contract but not at the same thing as the contract. So all the important term of the contract must be included separately. And then bank deal with document related to the good and not with the good itself. So which is mean any quality that you want to see in the good should be properly supported by document. So that's all for me. I will pass to my friend.
In Article 6, a credit must be stated clearly whether it is available by side payment, deferred payment or acceptance and any other form. A credit available with a nominated bank is also available with the issuing bank. It should have an expiry date for presentation. An expiry date stated for honor or negotiation will be deemed to be an expiry date for presentation. The place of the bank with which the credit is available is the place for presentation. Except as provided in sub-article 29A, a presentation must be made on or before expiry date. For Article 7 and 8 tell us about the responsibilities of issuing and confirming bank. Basically, the issuing bank undertakes to reimburse a nominated bank that has honored or negotiated a complying presentation and forwarded the documents to the issuing bank and make payments when it's due if a complying presentation is made. And as the confirming bank steps into the shoes of issuing bank, it has the same responsibilities. Article 9 is about advising the credit, which means checking the apparent authenticity of the credit and signifies it has satisfied itself. If a bank is requested to advise a credit or amendment but cannot satisfy itself as to the apparent authenticity of the credit, the amendment or the advice, it must to inform without delay the bank from which the instruction appear to have been received. Article 10 says a credit can either be amended or cancelled without the agreement of all the parties involved, which is the issuing bank, the confirming bank, and the beneficiary. The issuing bank is bound to by the term of the amendment too. It remains in force unless the beneficiary communicates its acceptance of the amendment. But the beneficiary should give notification of acceptance or rejection of an amendment. If the beneficiary fails to give such notification, a presentation that complies with the credit will be deemed to be notification of acceptance by the beneficiary of such amendment. As of that moment, the credit will be amended. Article 11. Teletransmitted and pre-advised credit and amendments cater for the limited number of credit that comprise of a pre-advised with a subsequent mail or telecommunication confirmation. A pre-advice shall only be sent if the issuing bank is prepared to issue the operative credit or amendment. Article 12 talks about nomination. It states that a nominated bank is not under any obligation to negotiate document. If it does not want to negotiate, it should communicate as early as possible. By nominating a bank to accept a draft or incur a deferred payment undertaking, an issuing bank authorizes that nominated bank to prepay or purchase a draft accepted or a deferred payment undertaking incurred by that nominated bank. Article 13 is for bank-to-bank reimbursement. The issuing bank must provide the reimbursing bank with reimbursing authorization. The issuing bank is not relieved of any of its responsibilities of providing the reimbursement if by any chance the reimbursing bank failed to reimburse the exporter's bank. Article 14 is about standard for examination of documents. Each document checking bank, that is the negotiating bank, the issuing bank, and the confirming bank will have a maximum of 5 banking days following the date of presentation to determine if the presentation is complying or not. Transport documents should be presented not later than 21 days after the date of shipment or within the expiry of the LC, whichever is earlier. Data in a document must not conflict with data in that document, other stipulated document, or in the LC. In commercial invoice, the description of the goods should be reciprocating the exact description of goods as stated in the LC. But in all other documents, the entire description may not be present, but whatever description there is, it should not conflict. If a credit has a condition without stipulating which document will fulfill it, that condition will be ignored by the bank. Addresses of applicant and beneficiaries may not be as that mentioned in the letter of credit, but should be the same country as mentioned in the LC.
Alright, next, my name is Mazia Muhammad and my number metric is 270531. I will continue with the Article 15, which says that when the review of document is done before the maximum period of 5 banking days after the days document were presented, the bank isn't entitled to the grace period up to the maximum of 5 days. In most cases, the presenter won't be able to tell when the examination process is done. So that's what people think. However, setting up the idea that respect or negotiation that are in line with the determination of compliance are required for regulation is important for compliance. For the certifying bank and for non-nominated bank as well, there is a need to send the document to the issuing bank or certifying bank right away. This is because they both have obligation to honor or negotiate. Next is about Article 16 that will notify you when to do if you find two different documents. The issuing bank can still ask the applicant for a waiver, but the new maximum of 5 banking days has cut the amount of time to do so. Let's say if a bank refuses and there is no instruction or waiver, then the bank must give a single notice of refusal. A statement like a noting discrepancies is not a notice that you should do. The discrepancies need to be clear and precise, or they won't be clear at all. Refusal must say why the bank isn't taking the money. For detail of all discrepancies and what it's going to do, it should say any one of the following. One is like hold for the further instruction. Second, like holding till receiving waiver from applicant, or the bank can directly return the document, or acting like depending on previous instruction. Any for all these steps need to be mentioned in this notice. While for Article 17 say at least like one original of each document should be there, or maybe some copies, but at least one original document. Alright, next about Article 18 that say about characteristic of commercial invoice. What is the characteristic? It should be issued by beneficiary in the name of applicant with the same currency of the LC and may or may not be signed. Like it's not necessary the invoice be signed or not to be signed. And there are several important points in Article 19 until 25 all about transport document, including the fact that they should include information about the goods shipped on the board, as well as the name of the carrier, and that in general a chartered party bill of lading is not acceptable. Chartered here mean at a random, while about transshipment is referred to the process of unloading from one vessel and reloading onto another during the product's journey. The transport document may specify that goods will be transshipped or that will not be transshipped as long as the entire carriage is covered by the same transport document. Even if transshipment is specifically prohibited under the LC, a transport document indicating that it will or may take place is allowed. In the case of rail transportation, it should contain a document that has been marked as duplicate and will be accepted as original. Moving on, Article 27 states that the bank will only deal with transport documents that are in good condition. The document does not have to be marked as clean in order to be considered clean, but it should not have any other document marks, including a damaged item. To put in another way, while a positive sign is not required, there should not be a negative sign present as well. And for Article 28, talk about insurance. And the main point is that the effective date of insurance cover must be not later than the date of shipment. If there are no indications in the LC how much the insurance is required, then the cover should be at least at 110% of the CIF value of goods.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. Now I will present about Article 29 to 37, which includes miscellaneous provision and disclaimer. In Article 29, if the expiry date of a credit or the last day for presentation falls on day when the bank is closed for reason other than those referred in Article 36, the date will be extended to the first following banking day. Next, in Article 30, the word about or approximately used in connection with the amount, the credit or the quantity or the unit price stated in the credit. And also, tolerance must only 5% for the quantity of goods is allowed. In Article 31, there has two parts, which is partial shipment and non-partial shipment. In partial shipment, a presentation consisting of one or more sets of transport documents evidencing shipment on more than one means of conveyance within the same mode of transport. For example, shipment by truck. Meanwhile, in not partial shipment, a presentation consisting of more than one set of transport documents evidencing shipment commencing on the same journey, provided they indicate the same destination, even if they indicate different dates of shipment or different ports of loading places. For example, vessel or aircraft. Moving on to next article. The next article is 32. If drawing or shipment by installment within given period is stipulated in the credit and any installment is not drawn or shipped within the period allowed for that installment, the credit ceases to be available for that and any subsequent installment. Then, in Article 33, a bank has no obligation to accept a presentation outside of its banking hours. And then, moving on to Article 34, a bank assumes no liability or responsibility for the form, sufficiency, accuracy, genuineness, falsification, or legal effect of any document, or for general or conditions stipulated in a document or superimposed thereon. Next is Article 35. A bank assumes no liability or responsibility for the consequences arising out of delay, loss in transit, mutilation, or other errors arising in transmission of any message. A bank assumes no liability or responsibility for error in translation or interpretation of technical terms and may transmit credit terms without translating them. Next is Article 36. A bank will not upon resumption of its business honor or negotiate under a credit that expired during such interruption of its business. And lastly, the Article 37. In Article 37, an issuing bank or advising bank assume no liability or responsibility should the instruction it transmit to another bank be carried out even if it has taken the initiative in the choice of that at the bank. So that's all from me. I will pass to my friend. Thank you.
Move to Article 38, which is transferable credit. A bank is under no obligation to transfer a credit except to the extent and in the manner expressly consented to by that bank. Article 38 can be divided into three purposes, which are transferable credit, transferring bank, and transferred credit. Transferable credit means a credit that specifically states it is transferable. A transferable credit may be made available in whole or in part to another beneficiary, which is second beneficiary, at the request of the beneficiary, which is first beneficiary. Transferring bank means a nominated bank that transfer the credit or in a credit available with any bank. A bank that is specifically authorized by the issuing bank to transfer and that transfer the credit. An issuing bank may be a transferring bank. Transferred credit means a credit that has been made available by the transferring bank to a second beneficiary. The last article in UCP600 is Article 39, which is assignment of proceeds. The fact that a credit is not stated to be transferable shall not affect the right of the beneficiary to assign any proceed to which it may be or may become entitled under the credit, in accordance with the provision of applicable law. This article relates only to the assignment of proceed and not the assignment of the right to perform under the credit.
So, moving on to the next important topic, which is INCOTERM. So, what is INCOTERM? INCOTERM, the standard contract term used in the sale contract to define responsibility and liability for shipment of the good when doing import and export. It is important to familiarize yourself with the detail of each INCOTERM for both seller and buyer, so that they can choose the one that makes sense for their global shipment. So, INCOTERM had both sides to ensure that the goods are delivered safely and efficiently. So, INCOTERM are 13 standardized definition of commonly used shipping and trade terms that cover issues such as control of good and financial responsibility, such as payment of cargo, insurance, and freight. INCOTERM provide traders with a common set of rules outlining each party obligation, thus reducing misunderstanding. The International Chamber of Commerce (ICC) established and publishes the INCOTERMs. And moving on to the next content, as I mentioned earlier, there are 13 INCOTERM, which are departure, which is ESW, at work, main carriage not paid by the seller, FCA, free carrier, FAS, free alongside ship, FOB, free on board, and main carriage paid by seller, which is CFR, cost of freight, CIF, cost of insurance and freight, CPT, carriage paid to, CIP, carriage and insurance paid to. When arrival, the DAF, delivered at frontier, DES, delivered at ship, DEQ, delivered at square, DDU, delivered duty unpaid, DDP, delivered duty paid. So, what is the importance of INCOTERM when quoting? INCOTERM can also be sorted into 4 groups, which is E-type, ESW, the seller bear little cost and responsibility, F-type, FOB, FCA, FAS, which is the seller is responsible for the transporting the good to the buyer predefined transport medium, and then the buyer assume all responsibility from that point onwards. And then next, C-type, which is CFR, CIF, CPT, and CIP, which is the seller bear all the cost and responsibility to destination port. Then the risks are transferred to the buyer once the goods are loaded on the mean of transport. And the last one is D-type, which is DDP and DAP, which is the seller bear maximum responsibility for cost and risk. So moving from INCOTERM group E to D, the buyer risk and responsibility decrease, while the seller risk and responsibility and control are increased. Thank you, that's all from me.
In conclusion, the UCP600 are the rules and incorporated into every contract, and post-incorporation it has to be specifically outlined in trade finance contract. One of the advantage of UCP600 is its flexibility for the international party involved. An accompaniment to the UCP600 is the International Standard Banking Practice for the examination of document under Documentary Credit ISBP ICC Publication 745. It assists with understanding whether a document complies with the terms of letter of credit. Credit that issued and governed by UCP600 will be interpreted in line with the entire set of 39 articles contained in UCP600. However, exception to the rules can be made by express modification or exclusion. For INCOTERMS, INCOTERMS is method of delivery used by seller and buyer after they agree in the sale and purchase contract the international level, avoid the occurrence of inconsistencies and uncertainties and others. It also determination of responsibility at each stage of the process is easy to determine. Both UCP600 and INCOTERMS have similarity in terms of safeguarding the right of importer and exporter within international trade and finance. That's all from us. Thank you.